Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk to you about diary management. More accurately, how to manage your diary like a rock star, or in actual fact, like Donna from Suits. She was pretty special. Actually, she was very good at managing Harvey's diary. So let's get straight into it. If you have ever looked at your diary at work and it's brought you out in shivers, it gives you anxiety, then I know exactly how you feel. Do you feel like you're constantly chasing your tail throughout the day because you are just slammed through meeting after meeting after meeting, or even double or triple booked for certain times of the day, meaning that you're having to make a choice around what you should attend? Well, if the answer to any of those are yes, then you are not alone. Bearing in mind that we've just been through a pandemic, it is highly likely that you've been sat behind a computer screen and you've been dealing with Teams meetings or Zoom meetings or whichever video conferencing tool is your one of choice, and you've likely been slammed in meeting to meeting. We are often governed by our diaries. In actual fact, I have to write stuff down in my diary, otherwise I forget to do it, which means I must remember to put the bins out. Anyway, the point is, having a diary can be a good thing. It's a bit like a visual to-do list in terms of what we need to do on a daily basis. But then you know what a diary is, don't you? But at work, does it feel like your diary is driving you? I know for a fact that my diary can get absolutely slammed. And that's not me bragging, it's not here to say, isn't it cool, isn't it great, aren't I really busy, because I would rather not be busy and not have as many meetings. But there are a number of ways that you can improve your diary management and help you manage your diary like a rock star. Again, just think, what would Donna do in this scenario? With that in mind, I'm going to give you the 5 tips that I use to manage my diary, and I think they will be hugely helpful for you. So let's dive straight in. Number 1, plan your diary at least a week in advance. Sounds pretty simple, but have you actually looked at what you're doing next week? Open up your computer or wherever your diary is and have a look what is scheduled for next week now. Are there already clashes or pinch points that you need to deal with? Why wait until Monday morning to start addressing some of the pain points and some of the issues and some of the hugely squeezed in days when you could probably look at it now? It is likely that there will be days that jump out at you where you know you need to do something about it. Are there meetings that you could move to a different day? Are there meetings that you cannot move, but those around you, you could create some space or some thinking time or some prep time? By looking at your diary at least a week in advance, you give yourself a fighting chance of getting on top of your diary. There's nothing worse than all of a sudden turning up on the day or at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday morning, only to realise that you are absolutely slammed in back-to-back meetings until 6 o'clock that evening without even time to have lunch or even go for a pee. Yeah, that's just not a good feeling. One of the phrases that I've used recently to help kind of articulate this problem is in much the same way that the phrase on time is late and early is on time, the same could be said of your diary. So don't leave it until the last minute. Go on, just have a look now. What's next week looking like? What's the week after looking like? Are there any important meetings in there that you need to highlight now or perhaps even do some prep for? But getting ahead of your week and your diary is one of the best ways of beginning to manage your diary like a rock star. Number 2 is all about factoring in some breaks. Now you can use the functionality in Microsoft Outlook or Google Calendar or whichever is your calendar of choice to factor in breaks. Now I've got into the habit of putting in a recurring hold in the middle of the day for lunch. I just set it on a recurring basis to occur every day or every weekday, and I just let it run. It doesn't mean that it won't get moved. It doesn't mean that I may need to flex around it, but it does give you a fighting chance to maybe grab 5 minutes outside of the office, maybe grab some lunch. Microsoft have introduced functionality, which I'm sure some of the other calendar apps will also do, where it allows you to ask Microsoft to use its algorithms and all the funky stuff that it has to allocate you some focus time. If you enable this functionality, it will look forward into the forthcoming weeks and start to block out chunks of time. It's a bit temperamental in the sense of sometimes it can block out half days, but then you can change it. But why not utilize some of the technology that we have to give yourself a fighting chance? I know friends of mine who will block out half an hour at 3 o'clock every afternoon just to give themselves some thinking time. Give themselves a chance to just regroup and work out what it is that they need to do for the rest of the day. Conversely, there's friends also that have a reflect and prepare that starts at the beginning of the day that just gives them a chance to take stock around what it is that they need to do. Reflect and prepare is quite an apt way of saying, okay, let's have a look at what I need to do. Let me prepare. Let's get on with it. Because it's all about creating an environment and a system that allows you to be as productive as you need to. So think about factoring in some breaks, fully acknowledging that days can get very busy and you might need to move them around, but it will mean that you give yourself, again, another fighting chance of managing your diary like a rock star. Number 3 is all about being ruthless. Say no. Say no to strangers. No, that's actually a different video. Decline the meetings that you know are going to give you no value or that don't have an agenda. Yeah, I know that's a bit brutal, but why not? If you look at your diary and it is absolutely slammed, the chances are, especially if you're double or triple booked, you can't attend all of them anyway. So why not start to decline those that you know that you can't attend? Be polite, always do it in the right manner, explain why you can't make it, but start to say no. Being able to decide those that are valuable or important to you will help you start to take back control. I know for a fact that some of the approaches that people take with inbox management, which again is a whole different bloody ball game, if somebody is captured in the CC column, it means that they won't read it. Unless it's to this person, it is presumed to not be read. Then you can send out that expectation and say, look, unless it's actually addressed to me, I will not read it. If you're having hundreds of CCs every day, there's only a certain way that you can deal with them, and that is one way. So in the same way, how can you get back control of your diary? You might need to say no. In actual fact, you will need to say no. You can't say yes to everything. In actual fact, you shouldn't say yes to everything. For those that you are unsure about, before you decline it, potentially ask for an agenda. Now, it's one of my bugbears for meetings that are put in without any narrative or an agenda or what the outcome is trying to be. So why not try that? For those meetings that you're having a look, because you're looking at it for next week, aren't you? So ask the organizer of the meetings that you're not sure about, what's the purpose? Can you send me an agenda? Is it necessary that I attend? Or maybe even ask, why have you included me in this invite? There is nothing worse, actually, than having a meeting invite that was forwarded on 19 times and then a meeting of 3 people escalates into being an absolute decision by committee approach. Yeah, that is really annoying. So you're going to have to get into the habit of saying no, but do it in the right way. Number 4 is all about using your time wisely. Yes, time to stroke the beard and look very wizardical or wise. Anyway, enough of that. The point is, using your time wisely is around saying, if you have a meeting, is it worth spending an hour and a half for a half-hour meeting? Maybe, maybe not. If it's the first time you've met that person, then having face-to-face contact can be quite important. But conversely, can you do it over Teams or Zoom or Skype or whatever the appropriate format will be? Can you take time back? Can you use that time that you would have been traveling to have a more valuable meeting or use that time more valuably? Quite possibly. Conversely, if you do need to travel, what can you do in that travel time? Are you able to schedule some calls or do some prep work or write a thesis paper? Write a thesis paper? Where did that come from? Anyway, I don't know. But the point is, are you able to use that travel time wisely? In your calendars, the chances are you're going to have a categories and a colors functionality. Now, those are super important because when you start looking at your diary or your calendar, can you see at a glance those that are really important or those that stand out? For example, I use red to indicate the important ones, and they're often with the senior executives or the CEOs or the COOs or whomever it may be. I can see at a glance when they are, and that means that I need to schedule some prep time in, either just before it or in the day before to prepare the materials. But again, being able to see at a glance exactly those meetings that are important to you allows you to begin to plan. And if you can't plan or get ahead of your diary, you're contemplating catch up, and the chances are you're going to miss an important one, or you're going to drop the ball, proverbial ball obviously, and things can begin to go wrong. So please use your time wisely, be ruthless, and make sure that you are trying to get ahead of what you're doing. Don't travel unnecessarily when life has changed. See if you can take back control. And finally, number 5, which I think is actually one of the most important, treat others as you wish to be treated, in a diary sense. But in actual fact, that's a pretty good life lesson. There is nothing worse than, as I've said earlier, just getting a meeting invite going, meeting 3:30 required. What's that all about? Also, this is another bugbear, don't just shoehorn in a meeting because it fits your diary, but if you've got other attendees, you haven't even seen if they're free or not. Well, if you do that, don't be surprised if you get inundated with decline, 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 decline. Think about diary manners. In much the same way, holding the door open for somebody is polite, saying please and thank you is polite. There are manners and good diary practices. Have a look, be considerate. Fundamentally, in the same way that you want to treat others as you want to be treated, the same goes for your diary management. Be clear, set out what works for you. Why not tell people how you like to be managed? Say, I'd quite like to have an agenda for each of the meetings I attend, or could we start to introduce this skill? Or could we just introduce this approach? It might help others and not just you, but please do treat others as you wish to be treated, because I guarantee you it will be more beneficial for everybody in the long run. Now at this point I want to give you a little insider tip which I learned not so long ago and I've used extensively because I think it is great. Now that is, when you are setting up a meeting, when you introduce what you're trying to do and you set the agenda, because obviously we don't turn up to meetings without agendas, I include a meeting type narrative. So in this meeting type, it is either one of two things. It is a discussion or it is a decision-based meeting. Now that means that when people get together or when we have that meeting, people are clear around what we're there to do. Are we there to have a discussion around a particular topic? Brilliant, at least we know that. Conversely, getting decisions made can actually be a really painful process, so indicating right up front that this is a decision-making meeting is also a very good way to do it. So doing so up front gives yourself the best possible chance of a great outcome, and we all love great outcomes. So that is an insider tip which I would highly recommend that you have a look at doing yourself. But with that, I hope you found it useful. If you did, please do check out this video here where I talk about the 5 underrated career advice tips that I've been given, which I think you will find useful. But with that, do click subscribe, do write me a comment, and I will see you all in the next video. Cheers.